7 things you should never do in Mexico. Hey, we've been living in Mexico for over a year now. Well, it's not funny. It's just that we've been abroad, 11 years. We're professionals at, immersing and living outside of, gringo bubbles and such. And that's super important. It's always been important, but it's becoming even more important than ever. And so we're going to have a conversation about 7 things, if you're coming to Mexico, to never do in Mexico. We've traveled all over, like Latin America, like South America, and all over Ecuador, and we've been to Central America and this kind of thing, and now Mexico. So there are the common things. There's the common things that, a lot of Latin American things have in common, and then there are some of the things that are specific to the area. But there's a lot of the things that you shouldn't do are very similar. But so the first thing I noticed when I got here, and when I went to the because I like to do business with small businesses, with mom and pop. Okay, I just like that personal relationship. It's one of the things I love about being abroad, is the personal relationship aspect of living here and being able to interact with the locals on a more meaningful level. Whereas when like when you go to a small tienda, you're talking to the owner, right? You're dealing with the owner. But when you go to the chain grocery store, you're talking to an employee. Nothing wrong with that. I'm sure they're nice people. It's not denigrating any people, but just the concept of interacting with either workers that perhaps don't have a vested interest in the relationship, and dealing with the principals. So the first thing I noticed, I started to say was, and we'll get right into it, is ugly Americans. Unbelievable. I could not believe what I saw when I came here. And I'll tell you what, I'm going to spare you. I'm not going to repeat what.
Oh, just give us one, Frank.
Oh man, just the cussing people, Mexicans out and stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And this guy walked in just before me. So imagine being the guy that goes in immediately after the guy that just cussed everybody out and called everybody names. And you know what? I have to really hand it to the Mexicans. They are such gracious and peaceful people. I was expecting to get clobbered because I came in after him, and I wasn't. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I'm in Mexico, because the Mexicans, they really are, I really admire them for being that, just patient with people. And the Latin culture in general is like this. Not always. I'm not trying to say, don't worry, come down here and be around these kind of people that are ugly American. Not at all, because someday you might just not be around such patient people at all, so it doesn't always end that way. But I still, though, in order, just to having that experience.
Yeah, but most of them are.
Most of them are though, most of the time. But you could always have that one time that a guy's having a bad day or something. But I couldn't believe it. And so, just ugly American. This wasn't just ugly American. This is about as ugly as it gets. I couldn't imagine being any uglier. All right, so yeah, not goes without saying, cussing people out, being ugly American. Okay, next thing. But the next thing would be is not exchanging pleasantries in their language, like, buenos dias. Now this is the same as in Ecuador, and it's important. It's like when I first went abroad, I very rarely forget, but I still forget.
I never forget.
I still have days when I forget.
I always
But they're becoming rarer and rarer. And they will, and in Ecuador, I think they were worse in Ecuador at times, because they just would really let you know sometimes,
Well, they let you know here too, I can tell.
They let you know here too, that you just, but I think that here specifically near the border, there's so many Americans that come here that probably don't do it, that they've just kind of accept that they're probably not going to get it. But in Ecuador, they're so much further away from the North American thing.
They expect it.
That when one of them shows up and doesn't do the pleasantry thing, they notice it. They're not getting it so often that they decided that they give up. So anyway, that's the difference here in Mexico. I'm not saying do it. They still don't like it. Smiling. You should smile and be pleasant. You know, not smiling, being grumpy. I start conversations with people, even with my broken Spanish. They really like that, especially the young people. They really like it when you engage with them and talk with them in Spanish. I think we're on number 4. Don't go out at night. Now this is controversial. People don't like to be told, don't go out at night. I hear you, man. I was like that when I was younger. When we went to Mexico, we went out at night. We didn't know anything. We were so naive, man. We could have, so many bad things could have happened to us. It wasn't even funny. Not only did we, the naive young gringos, go out at night, but we went out at night where there wasn't a lot of people. In other words, not necessarily in a touristy area, you know, in a remote area, which was a really bad thing to do. You know, so we got lucky, right? And we're still here today, 36 years later. We're still here, able to interact with you and make videos. So, but you know, it is a suggestion, and it's a strongly suggestion, and it's 7 things you should never do in Mexico, or in any Latin country, really. That includes Ecuador or anywhere else, Panama. But I know you didn't want to hear that. You know, even in touristy spots, there are more things that happen at night. I mean, I was watching a video a while back ago of a really, really touristy area after dark, where there was just hundreds of people walking, and you'd think, oh, it's safe. But this was, you know, people say, oh, Thailand is safer than Latin America. But here's these guys, I don't know what gang members or who they were, but here they are doing their little kung fu thing to an expat, kicking, you know, flying up in the air like a kung fu movie and kicking him in the head. Of course, it knocked him out. And I don't know what he did. Maybe he accidentally bumped into him. Maybe he had a few drinks and wasn't being careful. Gee whiz, he deserves to be knocked out with one of these super kung fu kicks, you know. Just saying, you know, stuff happens when you don't expect it, and it just happens accidentally and inadvertently. Just saying, you know. Just trying to help you out here. So
how about this one? Don't drink the water.
Oh, you're not gonna like this one either. 7 things to never do in Mexico. Don't drink the water. I know you've got other videos you're watching. They're telling you, no big deal. Drink the water all you want. It's just in some places, you know, let's just sweep it under the rug. Don't worry about it. Drink the water. Every time I've ever been in Mexico, starting from 36 years ago, or was it? Yeah, 36 years ago. Even getting the water near your lips caused you huge problems. And even though I hate to use terminology that makes it sound like things have gotten better to the extent that you don't have to be concerned about it, I would never want to mislead you and think that that's what I was insinuating, so I won't even go there. Next thing, I think we're at number 6. This one might surprise you too, but don't complain. I think that the graciousness of Latin culture, and especially the Mexicans, is that they know stuff, so complaining isn't, you know, it's a kind of
you mean don't complain about manana?
Don't complain about things that are inherently, you know, an issue that aren't, you complaining isn't going to change it, okay? So, you know, don't complain about waiting in line, don't complain about the water, just ask where you can get the water, ask where you can do this without waiting, be pleasant about it, and I think that, you know, it's just going to smooth things over in your relationship and your interaction with people.
I have another one. I just thought of it.
Okay, I think we're at number 7, and so
this is one of the ways that foreigners, expats, get killed in these countries, and Mexico's one of them, and that's going in the ocean by themselves on a deserted beach or at night. Nobody knows they're out there.
Because
I'm serious, they drown.
I know. I know.
All the time.
I know. She tells me this all the time, and
current gets them. The current.
Right, and it's one of those things that is important to mention, because people do go abroad in Mexico. They do go to Mexico and some of these places for the beach. And so, you know, well, look at us. We're at the beach every week. And so don't go. And when we were in Ecuador, Punta Carnera, oh my gosh.
Oh, that was probably one of the worst
don't
places.
don't even, you know, go in the water when there's no one around. And you shouldn't be by yourself. And even Panama was bad. I remember some of the gringos there, they weren't gringos, some of the foreigners, they were from Europe. I made some of them chuckle because I was trying to get into the water, but it was so rough that I had to wait for just the right moment to jump in, and somebody was watching me and they were just chuckling at me doing it. But you couldn't get in the water. That was the thing, it was so rough. And that was Panama, and nobody talks about it. 7 things you should never do in Mexico, because there literally really are statistics that one of the common ways that expats die is drowning in the ocean, that might surprise you, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know your thoughts in the comments, and thanks for coming to the channel, and have a wonderful day.